This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Welcome, everybody, to A Time to Care, the Caregivers podcast. I'm your host, Isabel Melgarejo, and I'm delighted to introduce you to Paul and Rachell. Paul is a chocolatier, so if you like chocolate as much as I do, I'm pretty sure you're going to be craving chocolate by the end of this podcast. Rachell is a yoga instructor, and we're going to talk about self-care and how we can enhance the experiences by combining things. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Really excited to be here. My first time being on a podcast.
All right.
Nice. I didn't know that. This is
Yes.
exciting.
Yes.
I would like to learn more about your chocolate and yoga and how you combine those experiences.
We've been talking about it off and on for a while.
Oh, I remember now. It was chocolate and crystal bowls. So I reached out to a friend of mine that does crystal bowls, and actually I was over her house, and I pair things up with chocolate. So think chocolate and wine, chocolate and sound, chocolate and yoga,
Chocolate and cheese, chocolate and
Chocolate-
beer,
yeah.
chocolate and a whiskey.
you name it, and I pair up chocolate.
Some
So I
pair
was
with it.
over there, and I'm like, I wonder if chocolate pairs up with sound. So I went back home and I grabbed a bunch of my ingredients, went back over her house, and she got the big F bowl, and she started playing it, and I did a little bit of research, and I started putting together the chocolate with these different ingredients that I thought would vibrate and resonate with the frequency. And she started playing it. We started making some adjustments, and it was getting there. And then all of a sudden, we both got overwhelmed emotionally. It was amazing. I looked at her, and I saw a tear coming down her face.
Oh,
And I was like, "Did you just feel what I felt?" And she said, "Yes."
What is the
So-
F bowl, though? I don't know if everyone knows when you said she got out her big
Oh,
F
it's a
bowl.
specific frequency.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like a crystal sound bowl,
yeah,
the biggest one. Okay.
yeah, exactly. And then I went home and I started telling Rachel about it. Rachel's like, "Well, there's yoga and chocolate." So, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So
I've
that's-
never heard that. I've heard yoga and puppies, yoga and
Goat yoga.
yeah,
goat yoga,
Wow.
hot yoga, cold. Like I've heard a bunch of it. I've never heard chocolate with yoga.
Traditionally, it's been the chocolate ceremonies with the yoga, that type of thing.
Ooh.
Like a cacao
It's been more,
ceremony.
cacao ceremony.
Cacao ceremony, not a chocolate, but a cacao where your people are drinking and they're not maybe going through any yoga postures, but maybe more of a meditative type approach with the cacao.
Well, the cacao, pure, amazing cacao. It's so spiritual. It's so connective. And it's an incredible tool to be able to access alignment and wellness and health. And the chocolate that I'm using is made with wild foraged cacao. I don't know if we talked about that last time. So
No, but I always learned so much about chocolate besides liking Hershey's or whatever.
right. So the chocolate that I'm leveraging and using is wild foraged. So what that means is that the indigenous chamanes from Bolivia are going out into the Amazon, which is literally their backyard. And they could be spending months out in the Amazon pulling cacao pods off of the trees growing wild in the Amazon. These trees can be hundreds of years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that alone, think about the connection, the
I
history, the heritage.
It is impressive. My mom had this Thai friend when I was really young. I remember her teaching me how to take care of plants. Probably she sensed that I was terrible with plants. She taught me that you had to put a red ribbon for health and you had to sing to the plants. And maybe all my plants died because I sing terribly.
No,
Oh boy, no,
no.
don't say that.
But I really like this connection of like, hey, I'm putting all this love and care into my plant, and then you're using this for doing amazing chocolate. I am still pending to get one of your boxes. I promise I need one soon.
We will remedy that right away.
And obviously yoga. Talk to us more about yoga and how you can connect with yourself through the practice.
When people think of yoga, they think immediately that it's just like another form of exercise, but that's only just a very, very small portion of it. But that's really kind of like what Western society has, attached itself to, is just the physical aspect of it. But there's so many more different levels and limbs, they call it, of yoga. But yeah, I did get certified in just the initial 200 teacher certification. I've been practicing yoga for over 20-ish years, and then I got certified. It'll be 7 years, and I've been teaching it part-time. I would teach it full-time if I could, but part-time, it is what it is right now, and I'm just very grateful. And the yoga is just a way to get to kind of using the physical aspect of it to get to what's underneath that, meaning like get to your emotions, get to your soul, get to your brain, through breath work and movement. And when we add the chocolate to all that and focus the movement to each specific energy center, which is, we call it the chocolate and chakra yoga event. Do you know what chakras are? Have you heard about chakras?
I know, but maybe there's someone out there who has no idea what that is.
Chakras are your basic, there's 7 basic, considered there's to be 7 basic energy centers all up and down your spine, from the base of your spine all the way up to the crown of your head. Each center is also associated with a different color. And these are said to be spinning wheels of energy. And sometimes we can have one of these energy centers spinning too fast or not at all. So you could have a chakra that's working overtime or one that's blocked. And then through the practice of a yoga class, you can kind of go through with the help of the postures and the breath work. While you're in the postures, you can help rebalance your whole self. And that's why you feel so good when you're done at the end of a yoga class. It's not just like a cardio workout or getting those adrenaline endorphins. It's like a whole inside and out body realigning, as opposed to like a workout.
And what's amazing is that the chocolate and this cacao, it does the same thing. It gives us access to balance the different energy centers across our body. And when we do it with certain intention, with the movement, with words, and we set intentions throughout the experience, and then we're eating these chocolates, and it's not just this wild foraged, the cacao made with the wild foraged cacao, or the chocolate made with the wild foraged cacao. It's not just that, it's additional ingredients. So for, let's say, there's one chocolate called the third eye, and with the third eye, I'm using fig, juniper berry, black lava salt, and different ingredients that also align with the third eye. So when you're consuming the chocolate, it's opening up an entire space. And then Rachel, she's doing yoga poses that are opening up that third eye and that entire space. And then we're creating intention with the spoken word. So we're combining the spoken word, the movement, all the senses. That's what's really different about this experience versus other experiences. It's tackling every single sense that we have to be able to get access to that alignment and that health and really the well-being that we discover. So when we were designing it, Rachel was like, someone's going to start crying during class. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. I was wrong.
Because
So-
it could be
100% wrong with everybody crying.
it wasn't everybody.
it's typical for someone to shed some emotion during just a regular yoga class in a specific posture, specific to whatever that person might be needing at that moment in time. And a lot of times you might feel that overwhelming sense of emotion towards the end of a class. But because what we designed, we're not tackling, but I guess developing and opening and balancing each chakra, each of the 7 chakras, one at a time. We've had different participants feeling different things at different times and telling us afterwards, oh my gosh, the heart went, oh my gosh, or,
feeling very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And letting go of that emotion and really just letting it out, which is beautiful. And that's the idea of it.
You had just finished your first class together when we first talked, and then we had
August. Yeah.
we talked a while ago, and then there were a couple of hurricanes coming along, and then the Christmas and I don't know if this is going to come before or after Valentine's Day, but for the Valentine's Day podcast, I talk about chocolate. So, how do you see chocolate being such an important part that we correlated with love?
Well, ooh, that's a good question.
We can talk about the heart chakra.
Well, just talk about the properties of chocolate, real chocolate, and why that's good for love. Like how does it make you feel?
Yeah, well, it's making you feel authentic. It's making you feel especially real. This wild forest cacao that I keep on talking about, it creates this beautiful connection between people, and not just between the people, but to Mother Earth. So we're feeling connected to spiritually, physically. But when you taste this chocolate that I'm talking about, you feel the energy. If you compare this chocolate, if you had it side by side with just a regular chocolate, that other chocolate, there's no energy to it. It's kind of soulless.
It's actually more like candy.
Did your Lindt chocolate and
Well, I'm not going to call it any brands, so. But
stop buying at whatever store you go.
Right, but you get the idea. So it really it just reverberates through your soul, and it connects you with your loved ones. It has all those properties. From a nutrition standpoint, it's possibly the highest antioxidant fruit in the world, and people don't know that. So if you go and you Google highest antioxidant fruit, you're not going to see cacao, not that often. They're doing new research, and they're showing that there's an antioxidant scale. Are you familiar with that?
I'm learning so much today.
Yeah. Raw cacao is off the charts when it comes to antioxidants. And have you heard of ayahuasca?
No.
So ayahuasca in South America. So people do it as a ceremonial. It's a root, and it brings you back to Mother Earth, and it's healing, and it's got psychedelic properties to it. So it's not something that you're going to bring to your kids, right? But cacao and ayahuasca are related. So the cacao can bring you that spirituality and that connection without those psychedelic properties. And that's one of the other beautiful things about it, is that it's so pure, it's so connective. It's one of the most nutrient dense foods that you can imagine.
As I've mentioned before, I don't know if you specifically know that I'm Mexican, born and raised in Mexico. Chocolate was always part of the culture.
Mexican culture invent chocolate for the most part, or weren't they one of the first cultures to incorporate it and have it?
So chocolate with the Native Americans in Mexico, the chocolate was for the gods. And that was a spiritual connection between the priest and the god, whomever they were calling. So the priest would drink this chocolate, and I have no idea how they would prepare it, but this is my connection with chocolate. And probably I'm biased because I don't know much about yoga, but this connection with the earth and God was done through chocolate. So that's how
That's awesome.
I have experienced chocolate throughout my life. And there is definitely a difference between chocolate that is made like in a factory and mass produced against a chocolate that has been produced with the local resources by like very small farms, collected and treated and then um sold, the experience, it is completely different. And one of the things that I've talked in the past in the podcast is about enhancing that things that bring you self-care or joy or whatever. And that's why I wanted to bring both of you to the show because, well, it's not a show, the podcast. Because you're enhancing an experience that is already full of emotions, and then you're adding on top of that. I want to know how can you create these experiences at home?
Wow. I mean, as far as yoga is concerned, I mean, there is just, hundreds and perhaps even in the thousands now. I don't know there's a really good amount of decent, online YouTube channels and yoga instructors that offer their classes or their different kinds of yoga for free. That if someone is hesitant to go into a studio, a lot of people get so self-conscious about trying something new, or, oh no, they think yoga, oh no, I can't do that, I'm not flexible. And then I once heard a saying, all you have to be flexible, your body doesn't have to be flexible, you just have to be flexible in your mind. And you're like, whoa. I mean, so yeah. And then I've had a neighbor, a friend of mine, who used to say, oh, I could never do yoga, it's too slow, I would get bored. And these are the people. And then even myself, when I first started doing yoga 20 whatever years ago, I struggled at the beginning, like, what is this about? I don't like this, because it really was, it got to me where I really found I needed some help getting aligned. The things that we resist, we actually persist, right? The things that or initially we're drawn to, but then we struggle with, are the ones that might give us the most growth and opportunity for openness or connection. And I felt like that's what yoga did for me. So how can someone do that from home? At least from a yoga standpoint, they can perhaps just start trying out some videos of some beginner yoga that is offered online, or maybe they might have a friend who does yoga at a local studio and they can offer to go there with them. But as far as the chocolate, yeah, and Paul can talk about that. But yoga really is great for self-care. Like I tend to say oftentimes when I'm teaching a regular yoga class, that you're here to work on yourself so that when you step off the mat, the real yoga is how are you going to react to things that happen in your life, and you get to practice that on your mat. If you struggle in a posture, or you find that you're getting emotional through one of the postures, or your breath work, or thinking of something that gets you going, and you have that time on your mat to kind of work it out for yourself without the pressures of your everyday in the face. So it can definitely bring some peace to your day. And all that is with self-care. So then when you're done with that, you can take hopefully a little bit of that with you. So when things do start to pop up and happen in our busy, crazy, hectic lives, we can be like, oh, I don't have to react that way. I can remember to stop and breathe and then think about what's in front of me. It is great for self-care.
I stopped doing yoga. I'm blaming the pandemic.
Well, that's funny that you said that, because for a while, at least the first year or so of the pandemic, people were doing yoga virtually for the most part, because studios were either shutting down, or you were 10 feet apart and could only, if you were at a studio that was like normally fit 60 people, they were only accepting up 20. And like it changed for everybody.
Yeah, and that part of connection, what I've always liked about yoga practices is especially the ending, like reconnect with yourself. And I've never done an outdoor yoga, but I think I should experience that. Because that's actually reconnecting with the earth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love going out to the forest, and it's something I do every single week. I go to the forest, I connect with the earth, I connect with the trees, I connect with the air, and it's incredible.
We're really fortunate where we live, in the town we live in. There's some really beautiful local trails that are less than 20 minutes away by car. So yeah, we
That's
have
fantastic.
a real beauty around here.
I've actually I've been doing yoga for about 23 years, just to throw that in. And I'm also Reiki certified. So I use the energy work and the yoga experience into this entire chocolate yoga experience as well. So going back to the chocolate side, what I would say we could do at home is mindfulness and experiencing this chocolate in a mindful way. So when we're doing our experience, we're not just eating the chocolate, we're experiencing the chocolate.
Slow.
And what does that mean? That means that when there's a very specific way, we get ourselves grounded. So physically grounded with our bodies to the ground. And then I walk everyone through how to actually taste this chocolate and experience that chocolate. And then once they're in that space of experiencing the chocolate, they take their time. They could take 1, 2, 3 minutes just being with the chocolate. And so I'm using chocolate in that experience like others would be using yoga. If you heard my dialogue and what I'm saying, a lot of it is same things that Rachell says in class. So as I've been developing my own chocolate experiences over the years, I've been doing chocolate experiences for over 10 years now. I found myself, I sounded just like Rachell. I was like, yeah, this sounds like a yoga class. And that's when it started dawning on me. Like I didn't always see that spiritual wellness, nutrition connection to chocolate. You know, it was more of that mechanical, oh, it tasted good. I didn't always get that. But obviously now this is what I live and breathe. The trick is having everyone find that special chocolate like you described, like that chocolate that you had when you were a child in Mexico. And that can be tricky. So do you mind if I plug a place where we can get it?
Of course, that was part of that's my end question, where people can reach out to you and obviously we're gonna put all the links on the show notes. But before we get to that point, before you skip all the rest of the interview, and now I forgot what I was gonna ask.
We were talking about the mindfulness and what we can do at home.
Yes. How can you bring these experiences together into one? And probably people are like, oh, maybe I don't like yoga, but I like, I don't know, something else. I like meditating. And maybe I don't like chocolate because I just don't like it, but I like a glass of wine. I don't know. How can you combine these experiences with your experience and what you've noticed with them? I honestly, I think I'm just going to fly to one of your experiences, but because I find it is so unique, and I find it is just like a whole sensory overload of joy, of like you're aligning absolutely everything. And obviously we're going to put this in the show notes, and if people want to travel and visit you, that would be fantastic. And if they can't, how can they experience with something they are currently doing? What do you recommend to just make this experience more profound?
Wow.
Make the experience more profound.
For someone, if they're with us or trying to do something at home.
If they're at home, if they want to experience it.
It's a little tricky because I can tell you that it's so nuanced and there's so much care that we put into, like you said, combining those different elements and not having it overwhelming and having it beautifully connected and flow from one aspect to the next. And you're feeling it and you're not losing that connection throughout the entire hour and a half. And that would be difficult to reproduce at home. I really can't imagine, because there's so many different skill sets and there's so many different elements that are being put into it.
What I would say is people can absolutely practice mindfulness at home, whether or not you're saying that they don't like yoga, but they like meditating, or they don't like chocolate, but they like wine. They can approach whatever they love with a different set, or trying a different way of approaching that activity with mindfulness. Because that's, we talk about, Paul schools people on how to actually taste the chocolate.
Well, what's funny is I was with my sister a couple months ago, and she met me at a bar, and she got some chips, an artichoke chip.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you want to taste the chip in a mindful way? She's like, okay. So it really can be anything. It really can be anything that you're consuming anything that you're doing is to have that mindful experience. And it's completely different. It reminds me of like when I'm walking through the forest and I slow down, and instead of, let's say I'm jogging and I'm just jogging through the forest, I'm actually paying attention to every texture, every color, every sense, the wind, the sound of the birds, the sound of the trees moving, the colors, the flowers, the textures within the petals of the flowers. And that's what we're looking for. And then there's textures and within the textures, right? And making sure that we're not going through life missing those beautiful, unbelievable connective elements that are there in front of us all the time. So it's a matter of slowing down and really experiencing what there is to experience.
I think that you have like a chocolate set that can be sent home and you have a chocolate experience, correct?
We don't have that yet.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, okay, well, hold on. Let me back up. We do have a self-guided kit.
Yeah.
We do. Yeah. So in that self-guided kit, it's not yoga and chocolate. It's chocolate with these beautiful connective ingredients. So that's the next step. We need to do yoga.
Oh my gosh. I guess I guess I could have little short videos for each of the chakras, and then they would turn it off and then taste
That'd be
the chocolate.
interesting,
That
right?
would be fascinating. I guess that could be something we could look at doing.
Yeah.
I just put you to work. So if people want to connect with you, where can they get those chocolate sets and where can they get the full experience?
Okay, so you could go to chocolategenius.com.
Isn't it that?
You can do or
Okay.
just chocolategenius.com.
Okay. All right.
On social media, the Chocolate Genius. And then we do have a shop button. You can click on shop, and we do have a limited set of chocolate that you can get. And I was going to recommend someone else. It's caputos.com. They're the world's largest retailer of the type of chocolate that we've been talking about. So, they have an amazing selection of fine, exquisite, rare chocolate that is connective and beautiful. So again, that's caputos.com. And we'll put those in the notes, like you said. Matt Caputo is the owner. He's doing incredible work in conservation. And yeah, he definitely deserves the recognition.
And then I think we're offering another chocolate and chakra yoga class.
Coming up.
The
in
owner,
February.
I teach a weekly class, and that's where we've had the class twice, once in August and once in October, and both were filled to capacity for the most part. The next one, she wants to do one in February. Do I tell you now where it is, I guess, or?
Yeah, share everything.
Okay.
I'm gonna make sure that this one comes out the first week of February.
Okay.
It's
So
in
people can fly and run and visit you.
Wow,
Right.
yeah, okay. It's in a town called Winter Springs in Florida, which is a suburb northeast of Orlando, and in the next county. It's not a huge yoga studio. It's a beautifully intimate space, and like I said, we've had the class twice there, and that's where I personally teach once a week.
When is this happening in February?
We don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
I'm doing several different types of chocolate pairings. So I'm going to be doing a chocolate and beer pairing for sure. That's going to be on Saturday, the week of Valentine's Day here in Orlando. And that's going to be at Hourglass. I'm going to be doing a chocolate and whiskey pairing. We're going to be doing the chocolate and yoga pairing. So it's all about chocolate and pairing. It's so much fun. We can pair chocolate with anything. And again, it's a whole, there's so much intention behind all of it all.
Yeah, I love it. And every time that I talk with you, it's just like, I just don't want the conversation to end because it is so full and so rich and I get so much. This has been a fantastic interview. I have enjoyed it so much. We're going to put all of these information in the show notes. If you figure out when the yoga and chocolate is going to be paired before this comes out, I'll be happy to put that in the show notes as well. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity to share our love for chocolate and yoga and wellness and connection. That's the biggest one, connection for me, because it all starts with a connection, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
It's been really
Yeah.
great and wonderful. Thank you.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.